tla ke tse sebaka se ke go dumedise ebile ke go amogele mo thulaganyong ya gago ya gale ya Motlhophi BUA episode ya 27 kgwedi e fetileng e tlhola malatsi a le 30 lefatshe la Botswana le Batswana ne ba tsaya tshwetso kwa matlhophelong ba tsaya tshwetso ba tlhopha goromente yo ba batlang gore a ba etelele se diragetse go na le goromente o mošwa mo lefatsheng la Botswana goromente o eteletsweng pele ke tautona Advocate Duma Gideon Boko wa Umbrella for Democratic Change. Go na le ditsholofetso tse di dirilweng pele ga go ya ditlhophong re sekaseka nngwe ya tsone e leng citizens' economic expectations of the new government. Tsala, tla ke go amogele on the podcast for citizens' economic expectations of the new government. Before we do that, there were manifestos put together by different political parties. There's only one ruling political party, the Umbrella for Democratic Change. What they put together for us as voters, do you believe that, or what's your reaction to the vote that has been cast, the results that are now here, that the ruling party's economic promises, the Umbrella for Democratic Change, issues regarding decent job creation, minimum wage, old pension, students' allowances. How much impact do you think that it had in people's choices of who to elect to govern the country?
Well, one would have had to do a post-electoral poll to actually confirm how many people actually were influenced by those particular sentiments from the manifestos. Mehala, as a way of assumption, we would rather say when you elevate the expectations, it's economic empowerment there about, and they have been for a long time been in a situation where their livelihoods were typically of an underprivileged sort. You expect people to react in the manner which they did, and all other things equal. Compared to 2019, similar promises were made but there were other considerations that were made.
Challenge for you, posters, lolonar, surveyors, Peter, you are a student, and you are not just a student, but you are a student of economy. They are around what we are discussing here, the economy, manifestos, the promises. You as a representing the young vote, how important are those issues from manifesto's point of view for the youth of Botswana?
For me, what really influenced my vote in these elections were the realistic promises that were made by particular parties. I was not swayed by promises that were not feasible. If we're talking about one of the manifesto points, specifically job creation is a point that was raised by all major party manifestos. We have the BDP who promised 300,000 jobs. We have UDC promised a staggering 450,000 to 500,000 jobs. And then the BCP as well, 300,000 with 60,000 jobs intervals with every year. Unfortunately for the BDP, this particular point played against them because the BDP has been in power, specifically talking about the previous administration. It's been in power for the last 5 years. However, again, looking at my second point with the minimum wage, the UDC and the BCP were very ambitious, offering us with the 4,000 pula minimum wage, student allowances of 2,500. I'm a student, by the way. So allowance are 2,500, as well as increase in old age pensions and ipelageng but durable 2.5. This minimum wage, it isn't economically feasible. Like I said, I wanted realistic points. So it wasn't economically feasible. If we're looking at the microeconomic aspect of things, an increase, such a sudden increase in the minimum wage, as the UDC stated they would do, is going to lead to hyperinflation. This hyperinflation is going to affect the consumer the most. It's going to lead to increased production costs for firms, and these firms are going to have to make up these costs somehow. And how?
Ke a o leboga. The expectations of University of Botswana students. You are a student where you are, you are a treasurer of University of Botswana Economic Society. What was the mood like when you were relating with each other in regards to the 2005 fund? Was the expectation is what, as we speak right now, 30th of November, they are getting 2,500?
There are so many different expectations from different students. Some students want it immediately. Some students are hoping that by the next, when we get the next budget speech, they're hoping that there will be these increases. We're going to be getting our 2,500 pula allowances, because some of us are even graduating in the next 2 years or next year. So some of them are hoping to leave here, but it's about making budget 2.5.
Right.
So what's that?
In the context of where we are right now, the expectation is there. We have to explore this, the anticipation yarona from the administration. There are those who are saying, like Peter is saying, people are expecting it now. There are some videos that you see, tsaba holo bare na re emetse madi a rona 1,800. And gona le ba eleng go the school of thought gore no, a re emeleng gore mente pele a simolle go busa. Then we can expect this. Your reaction to that?
Well, I would also say it myself with the last remark you made, that government has to set in first, has to settle in. It would be unfair for people to expect changes there and then. Jaaka gongwe di promise ne di diriwa before di top gore nya etare ha November hela bo gonna jana le jana. We should separate election rhetoric le substantive interventions of government, because like my colleague Abu, they have to be rational, right? You look at the cash flow and then rationalize that which you can do or that you can achieve in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term. So ha re lebeletse tsone di promise tsone tse harologaneng tseo. And I'm expecting a State of the Nation address that will come, I think, on the 19th. Bang gore ha State of the Nation address setla se ta re ka etsa gore mototegi tautona o wa ka ntse jang going into the first 6 months, into the first 1 year or so. Ga ke setšhaba tshwantse gore se toele gore se hile batho marapo gore ba tsamaise. They have given mandate to the government to actually lead, and therefore it is the government that is actually going to say, we have this much, this is what can be achieved in the short run, this is what going to be achieved in the medium term and in the long term. Di kgang tsa teng di dintsi go na le tse ya ka bua tse di promise tse le gore ne di buiwa, like I said, in a populist sense, but there are more substantive issues like inequalities that we have to actually look at gore
a new government, and I've been watching closely what His Excellency Dumaboko has been saying, and I would like to point out the appointments that he's made. Firstly, with the Vice President VP Khaolate being doubled as a Minister of Finance as well. I think this was a very good move. He is very suitable for the Minister of Finance position because with his educational background as well, economics, finance, and mathematics, as well as his experience as CEO at Photon, his experience as research fellow at Botswana Institute of Policy Development, as well as his previous experience as Member of Parliament on financial committees. I think that was a very good pick, and it gives us confidence as well to say that he will be able to handle these matters well. He will be able to analyze. He will be able to manage the...
Let me come back to you on the issue that relates to what the government needs to do, the UDC government needs to do. People always talk about foreign direct investment. I've been at a lecture where the Vice President Khaolate, about 5 years ago, when he was talking about mega industries in Botswana. Let me ask you, what does the government need to do right now to fulfill their promises So that's unemployment, decent wages, Botswana living better.
ya ka nna ke bua go gontsi rra mo government a tshwanetse gore a go dire and ke tiro e leng gore a ka achieveiwa mo ngwageng o mongwe hela gongwe it will even take up to 10 years gore go kgonagale dilo tse dingwe government a rona o ntse o tswa ke tsaya gore le ntse le lemoga gore go ntse go na le issue ya foreign direct investment e le gore ke yone e leverageang development mo Botswana le job creation wa ita ditiro ka investment e tswang ko inflow of investment from outside, and I don't think we have been doing very well on that area, and I think it's a place where the current government has to explore what really needs to be done to allow more investors to come and set, especially in productive industries. The industry tse leng gore di ta dira ditiro tse dišwa, not only jobs tse leng gore gongwe cost inequalities, because investment e tsena bontsi ba yone ke ya di-company tse di tswang, and therefore capital flight e ira gore Batswana ba sale ba sena sepe. Yaanong gone mo ke nngwe ya dilo tse e le gore ke tsaya gore government o mošwa o ta tshwanela ke gore a di lebelele sentle gore Batswana stake sa bone se ha kae mo itsholelong, foreign direct investors stake sa bone sa ha kae mo itsholelong, without sounding to be maybe xenophobic. Go na le dilo tse e leng gore ha o di lebile yana di rua ke di-investor tse di tswang ko ntle o ka gakgamala. Ditiro tsa bo go apa mo di-restauranteng, di-restaurant, not big restaurants, the franchise, but tse dinyenyana hela tsa bo go apa di-palage boing, but you see those jobs di rua ke batho ba tswang ko ntle and all of that. But I think it is very important
over the years, for many years, about let's benefit from our resources. We talked about DBS Botswana earlier on. There is the issue of what has happened in Silver Pikwe. There are deposits of gold in some places in Botswana. The tourism sector as is. We can go on about this. Do you believe that the UDC government has got the capacity to localize some of these jobs where we're exporting the raw materials outside Botswana?
It depends on the dialogue itself, right? Na ke dumela gore ke kganya ebile le gore ha e thoke UDC government le knows it's a matter that needs Africa as a region, right? Southern Africa as a sub-region to mobilize against foreign direct investors that have actually overstayed, because initially what foreign direct investment was to achieve in le gore ha e leng gore re pallwa ke go itirela teng re batle di-skill from outside, basic citizenship theory, like you get investment from outside because you can't produce those skills indigenously. But the time when you have already achieved an equilibrium in terms of advancing those skills, you need to localize the jobs and give them to locals. Right. There is no question about it. But the controversy or the twist of it comes when you don't have that bargain as a country.
Decent salaries. Decent work, decent salaries. It's a second generation right nowadays. Peter, let me come back to you. What economic improvements, such as higher wages, we've been talking about a lot of higher wages, or increased job opportunities, do you foresee with the UDC government?
Can you repeat that?
No, in terms of what economic improvements, such as better salaries, job opportunities, do you foresee with the UDC government?
In terms of policies that they could implement, I think that if the UDC could look into economic diversification of the economy, economic diversification of exports, especially with our huge reliance on diamonds, we need to move away from this reliance on diamonds because we become susceptible to economic shocks that can happen to the country. For example, with the COVID-19 era where borders were closed, it means we can't trade, as well as with the 2008-2009 economic recession. things became very bad because what we're relying on for income is a luxury good. A luxury good if things go bad, people don't need them. People don't need to purchase them, and because or now we're so reliant on them, and they don't buy them, it affects us really bad and could lead to things like unemployment. So I really
Policy normally is regarded as something that is done deliberately. What is it that that you are hoping for from the UDC government in terms of policy structures?
the policy in terms of policy structures.
Yes. What do you want? What do you want? What do you foresee? What would you like to see them do as a youth in Botswana?
I would like to see them, like I said, job creations. And I would also like to see them also investing in the youth as well. We need capacity building. We need the UDC and government to be investing in us and helping us and preparing us for things like with also things like the trade agreements that we're having right now, the AFCFTA, which are going to be opening up our markets to a market of almost 1.3 billion people across Africa. So the government, I would be hoping for them to be preparing the youth at large, preparing them for globalization, preparing them for exporting, preparing them for trade, helping them access finance a lot easier. I think these are things that would really help, and not just the youth, like Kiti Bilehela, as well as women. Women are.
To say we should also we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that it is the BNF also that is in control of the government, right? It's BNF, the presidency comes from the BNF, though it is a coalition. And therefore, some of these policies that have been portrayed in their policies for a very long time must come to the fore, like the one that I just said earlier, where we should mitigate this control, foreign direct investors, where we simply open up the borders for them to come and exploit and fly away with the capital and all of that. So I think it's a good idea that you are raising, that we should, whilst we approach government in a human rights perspective, we should also be aware that for a long time some of the problems that have been created by the past regime were on an ideological perspective. The current government setting in, we mean ba tsene ba lemoge gore go kgonagala ya go kgonagaleng, ke bone ba ka re bolelelang gore go kgonagala ya go kgonagaleng. I'll make this statement, like before the top go no go buiwa thata ka kganya gore a gona madi, government ga ana madi. But recently I saw somewhat a shift in that narrative, that it's not that government doesn't have money, that government only has cash flow problems, something of a sort. I think by one of the
governor of Bank of Botswana.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So your information on you, ke yone e botlhokwa gore e teetso yotlhe. Batswana ba te ba kgone go itsheka-tshekela gore mme, including le tse e leng gore tautona ba kota ba se tsa di buile, mme ke eng se se tla kgonagalang in the short, in the medium and in the long term. Ha re leng teng gompieno yana, it would be very difficult for someone to tota ebile, like I was saying in the other conversation, we should mitigate our expectations gore re ska ra tsaya gore dilo di a gonna all rosy and go tabo go le monate and all of that. We are having a situation where the new government has inherited a lot of problems tse ile gore di tswa mo dinakong tse di hitileng. So go nna motho go hela gore re ha ba tsena ba ithela ile gore nya go ra gore sengwe le sengwe se ne ba se promise ba ta se diragatse jalo.
All right. So I guess the president, when they are doing the State of the Nation address, they always tell us how much.
Pay them 4,000 each as a floor. What do? I lay off maybe 15 so that I can sustain for 4,000 tenure. And those are the issues tse lo ra go kopana le tsone. And then bo gonna gapelo ne khanyo na unemployment ntse re na lone gore ya no ha go iragetse yalo gore menta right size tsa le gore ta dira jalo gore a kgone go maintain a wage bill e sustainable. Private sector lone e right size jalo jaaka ntse dira ile of batho jalo. We are going to have unemployment continuing for a number of years, right? We are going to have that shock. Make no mistake about it. And then we need to come up with other policies they will ditabo di kgontsha government go tsamaya le gore e mitigate le di-expectations tsa batswana. For example, go ntse go na le problem ya unemployment akere, and I'm suggesting gore ha ile gore government o ka tsaya sone seemo sone seo sa right sizing le di-private sector e maintainer right sizing gore e kgone go deala le 4,000. We'll have to also now deal with batho ba sa bereke, somehow give them an allowance e le gore ba ta e sustain ka yona gore expectations tsa bone di ska tsa nna mathata. The second thing that maybe government would have to do is to retool batho ba e leng gore ba na le lebaka ba sa bereke, whom in my view then they tend to relapse into illiteracy. I mean, if you have someone on a 10 years a graduate le accountant me a sena gope kwa practice the accounts that person is bound to relapse into illiteracy.
The government is under a lot of pressure from every direction. In terms of priorities, I would advise the government to not succumb to all these pressures. They give us a lot of promises, but they shouldn't really succumb to them. And what we really need to do right now is deal with income coming into the country. Right now, there's no diamond revenue, like I said before. So we need to get into diversifying, like I said before. And then also the biggest priority as a Motswana, jobs. We don't have jobs. I'm a student right now. I'm going to be graduating soon. I'm going to be leaving here, and there won't be, in this current state, there are no jobs out there for us. So I think the biggest priority is looking at how you can create jobs for us, looking at how you can do that, because that will increase our quality of life as well as Botswana. And then under quality of life, healthcare, like I said before, is something also that really, really needs to be dealt with. I went to Marina this one time. I only went there once, and my experience was very traumatic, to say the least. We really, really need to take care of that. Health as a priority, job creation.
A situation where people are just graduating from universities, me ba sena ko ba berekanti. So we need that in the next 5 to 10 years, so that we have a situation where the economy itself can generate jobs. And I think if they have the right strategies on where the creation on 500,000 jobs can be managed in the next 5 to 10 years or so, if they have proper mechanisms in place, and some foreign direct investment, local industries and all of that. And then in the immediate term, so was tokahalang ke gore go lekiwa thata ka bojote go improve infrastructure mo lehatsi ma le gore madi a teng ya ka ne ke thalosa re tauta ka tautona ha bua ka di 19 re leke go improve infrastructure more especially in the rural areas, so that you don't
gore batho ba ne sa pula ana re nya re na le bonka di latlha ba ka enesa bo right so tlaketse sebaka se ke le lebogele nako a lona ke na le ene ke a o leboga dipogiso ga mo go le Peter se le bane ba na le nna go tla go theleletsa puisano ye morago ga ditlhopho the 27th episode of Motlhophi BUA. Motlhophi tota eno buile Umbrella for Democratic Change is the new government. Tautona boko ka tsatsi la di 19 o tla ba buisa setšhaba a re fa pegelo ya setšhaba, the State of the Nation address, le cabinet re santse re emetse gore e felele re tle re utlwe gore gate go na le bomang le gone gompieko jaana ne re bona the new cabinet, the new structures of cabinet that has 18 ministries. So we are waiting to see more of these to be unfolded as we go along. This has been Motlhophi BUA thulaganyo e tshediwang ka ditebogo ke bone ba embassy ya lehatshe la America mo Botswana ga mmogo le ba bo Congo tshwaragano le Duma FM.